Welcome to Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. In this show, we're not just rewatching, we're going behind the scenes, deep into the anime story, unearthing intrigue, and exploring new theories about the Attack on Titan universe. The majority of each episode is spoiler-free. Then, after a warning, we'll take a few minutes to connect the dots with storylines from future episodes. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, but don't forget, you can join us for the live broadcast Sunday nights on Facebook and watch every episode on YouTube. Links will be in the show notes. With that, let's get into the conversation. Hey, clinking of the glasses. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome.
It's time for episode 3 of Beyond the Basement, the complete Attack on Titan podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Eric.
I'm Pete.
I'm Rachel.
And we're going to start out with a quick recap of the episode, and then we'll kind of get into more details. Now, remember, this first part is all spoiler-free, so we'll save the kind of like stuff that pertains to later episodes for the last little chunk of the show. Okay, so this episode starts out, obviously, where the last one left off. We left off previously where Eren and the gang have just joined the cadets. They're joining basically the military in this show. And in this episode, we start off and they're in basic training. They're all getting yelled at. You got this, is it Commander Sadie's? I don't know if they say his title per se, but
yeah,
he's their
Keith Sadie's
drill sergeant guy, basically. And he's yelling at them, and they got these two kind of like higher ups sort of observing everyone, like, oh yeah, these, they put him through this pressure so that if they don't like it, then they have to leave. This is only for like the best of the best. So you meet a few different characters there. Actually, during that whole spot, we meet, or during this whole episode, we do meet Sasha, who's the potato girl. We'll get to that in a second.
Potato
we meet Jean, whatever, Marco, Connie, a handful of others. Anyway, as we've said before, pay attention to all this kind of stuff. This is important. Who you see in these early episodes, they will almost all come back in some way, shape, or form. So anyway, Sadie's is yelling at everybody. Then they go in for the night. They can have a bunch of these little camaraderie moments in the barracks. They have Eren kind of almost gets in a fight with Jean at some point.
Typical Eren.
Typical stuff. Let's see here. I'm trying to make sure we keep this a little concise. I don't want to go into detail on all this stuff. It's tempting. So fight happens in the barracks. The next day, they're out doing training for what they call the mobility gear, ODM gear, 3D mobility gear. There's like a bunch of different names depending on the translation, if it's subbed or dubbed. But it's the gear they use that's like the Spider-Man looking stuff where they like shoots out. We've seen it a few times already, but they have to get basic training in this. And so we see everybody else doing it except for Eren. He's like basically screwed up and like can't do it for some reason. He's all distraught. So that night, he goes and tries to get advice from other people. He's all freaked out because he thinks he's going to get washed out of the cadets. He seeks advice with some new friends, Bertholdt and Reiner. They go out that evening, and then the next day, lo and behold, Eren goes up for like the actual test. He goes to do it and fails, and then the commander is like, "Oh, wait a second! Like, you have some faulty gear. Like, switch your belts out." Which, how would he have noticed that?
Gets the new belt.
He gets a new belt.
Sure enough,
and he can do it, and it's no problem. He's like, "Yay!" And that's the end of the episode. So that's the recap. I don't know if I did that in 90 seconds or not, but that's the gist of the episode. And this episode, like basically all of them, especially here at the beginning, again, I can't just stress this enough. Basically everything is going to show up again, and everyone is going to show up again. All the names, all the different stuff. There is no such thing as a filler episode in Attack on Titan because everything about the show is about this kind of flow of information. So let's start at the beginning. And if you guys have any thoughts on Sadie's and yelling and meeting the characters, go ahead.
This episode's called "The Dim Light of Quiet Despair," which is also like the most Japanese poem sounding thing.
100%.
As I sit under the quiet lotus tree. This is a great episode. It's definitely one of the ones that's not so much action driven.
More about information.
It's more about
building
information,
the character.
And this episode goes right in line with a lot of other anime. Think about like Naruto or like My Hero Academia, where you're meeting the supporting characters. You're meeting the class, and animes are pretty cool like this. Not a lot of shows are like this.
Yeah.
Avengers is kind of like the only major American one that's like this, where it's like, hey, there's like 15 characters.
Yeah.
They all have their own arc. They're all important. They all support each other.
Yeah, it's a deeper thread.
Their interactions are different. And again, in order to do that, you have to have this long-term booking type, status where you're thinking long-term about the story and not just writing characters in here and there. So they have this long-term story, and you meet all the class this year of the cadets. And don't worry so much about the names initially. They're going to be repeated again, and you get to know them.
Yeah, I get to know everybody.
Kind of the main theme, I feel like, is just Potato Girl's a boss. Sasha is the most important character in Attack on Titan, period. She's my spirit animal.
It's one of those like brief moments of humor in this show. Like they don't do a lot of like lighthearted stuff. Like, yeah, we talked about this before, but like other animes would be like goofy, silly all the time.
Yeah.
This show has like a few moments, so they're kind of precious. Sasha is that moment. She's your comedic relief essentially for like the length of the show. But what I love is they spend like a decent amount of time on her with the potato, and she's like showing like zero respect, and her ultimate solution to getting yelled at by her drill sergeant is to break it in half, be like, here's
Give
half
the
for you.
smaller
But she
half.
considers which half, and then gives him the lesser half.
Which, if you know Sasha, that's a stretch.
In the most sincere way.
Yeah.
Too. She's
She
like,
means it.
have my tiny potato.
Some important things
And he's just
here
dismayed.
in this episode are, all the cadets is hard training, right? It's basic training. And again, in our military right now, our military has good standards, but our military has actually had to drop some standards, because of our country's problem with health issues and
weight issues.
Yeah, it's drugs and felonies and
all that
whatnot,
stuff.
right? And you got to think we're not, in a current massive wartime issue. We're not in, fight for your lives. We're not in draft period, right? So we can kind of have laxer standards, right? Well, they're in the height of we need to have the best of the best of the best. We need to have, because otherwise Titans are going to kill us all. We're trying to retake our land. We're trying to do it. So they have to have the absolute highest standards right now for training. So training's got to be real tough. In the midst of all this chaos, Eren, looks out and he sees the very first day a truckload of people are going back to the fields, and everyone kind of looks around. They say, "Oh, these are the people who are dropouts." And he's like, "On the first day," and Eren speaks up and he says, "Not everybody has what it takes to be here. You gotta have to have this mental will." And he says, "I can't believe anyone would rather pull plants than be here and fight." And that's just how driven Eren is. Eren has this goal. His goal is to kill all of the Titans, right? He's got this indomitable will, which is something we see a lot in anime. This character with these really strong, leadership characteristics. He's got this set goal, and he's going to do everything he can to accomplish this goal. And he can't understand how other characters don't think the same way he did. But even in the last episode, we see, them on the boat.
Yeah.
All these characters are weeping and crying, and he's the only one making an oath deep in his heart. I'm going to do something about this.
Right.
I'm not. And then you actually hear a lot about victims too. A lot of times, they'll say, "Oh, it's not my fault" or whatever. But a lot of them will say, "I'm going to make sure this never happens again." Eren's kind of doing the same thing in his heart. He's going, "I'm going to take in charge of my life. I'm not just going to be a victim of this situation. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to kill all these Titans." And he can't understand. Everybody doesn't think exactly like him. So he sees these dropouts. They're going to go back to the fields to pull weeds rather than just to fight and train and defend their own land. And Eren's like, these guys are freaking cowards, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, you're being kind of tough,
He has
Eren."
no compassion.
Yeah. And I mean, in certain situations, I could kind of understand, these guys are they're dropouts. They're not going to stand and fight. They're not going to try to retake their country. And how can you think like that? You're just going to be Titan fodder.
Yeah, Eren's motivated. I feel like there's, again, so many things in this show that are like, this is how real life is too, right? He's a young man, and when you're young, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Black and white.
It's black and white. And so Eren only knows his inner world, his feelings, his history, right? The stuff that motivates him. And it's hard to get outside of yourself when you're young, which is an interesting thing to
He's supposed to be 12, right?
Well, when we start out,
14 now though, right?
Well, I don't know.
They mentioned 12 in the episode
when he started, I think, but he said he has to be 13 or 14 to sign up for the regiment.
Well, yes, one of them says since you were 12
training.
years old or something like that. Society or propriety is motivated you to be a soldier or something like that. One of the other guys.
Yeah.
So he's a young man.
Yeah. So
he's somewhere in there.
Young.
Yeah, we meet them here. This is kind of what I was saying before. Is this is not a show about young kids. Just the first couple episodes, because by this point, right, they're young men and women, so we're they're soldier age, right? So at the very least, late teens at this point, right? They're certainly that and then some. But at any rate, that's the other thing. They spend 3 years there.
Yeah.
Something I kind of missed. It's like we covered that in one of the previous episodes. They're like, oh yeah, cadet training is 3 years.
It's 3 years long. Yeah.
So all of this class, they're getting to know each other.
They're
learning,
be
they're growing. If you spent any amount of time, like high school, you're trapped in there like prisoners, you kind of have to have these alliances, the camaraderie. You get through stuff together. You build
even with
these
people
bonds.
you don't like sometimes. They're like, okay, well, we went through it together. You have that in common.
So this year of cadets grows together. You see, Connie and Sasha. You see Bertholdt, Reiner. You see Marco. You see Jean. You see Armin and Mikasa and Eren all kind of growing together. And you see even as the episode goes on, later on, we see Eren, he goes on to go do his ODM gear training. And he's so focused. He can't believe anyone wouldn't, want to stand up and fight. And everybody passes but him. And this is the pass-fail of his soldier, career. He can't not pass this. This is the first hurdle, and it should be an easy hurdle in his goal. And he can't even do that. And I know, that could be crushing. If you set this goal, I'm going to be CEO of my own company one day, and the very first thing is open a lemonade stand. You can't even do that, right?
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say everything is about fighting and being a soldier for him, and if he can't do it, then who is he and what does his life mean anymore? Like if he doesn't have that, everything is gonna fall apart and
Mikasa
lose
even
all
says,
meaning.
Yeah, she even says, she's like, well, maybe it's time you should abandon this dream, right?
Yeah.
Mikasa doesn't care about this long-term goal.
Yeah, she's okay. This is the second time just in the show, even so far, where somebody has said something to Eren that's brutally honest.
Yeah.
She says, it's not up to you whether or not you're cut out to be a soldier. Which is true, right? There's just something, and again, we've talked about this before, I think, too, already, is that so Japanese culture comes through in the show, the way that they think and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things where this idea of honor and working hard and fighting hard and passion and so on and so forth. But in this instance, it's this kind of bluntness about what is and what isn't. And she just says it. She's just like, listen, it's not up to you. In the previous episode, it was listen, you couldn't defeat that Titan because you're weak. That's not wrong.
Yeah.
That's just really tough to hear.
Is the unfiltered PC.
Yeah, exactly.
PC
exactly.
truth.
So opposite. Yeah, exactly. The way we would soften the blow. In America, we'd be like, oh,
you tried your best.
You
There's
did a good
lots
job.
of other careers out there for a guy like you.
There's dignity in planting, and he'd be so mad. But the truth is, it's okay, you may not be good enough. Now, Mikasa may, have other motivations and not wanting him to die as well. But
she doesn't care so much.
That is her all-consuming.
Right. She doesn't care so much about
she joined
fighting.
because of him.
She cares about staying alive and protecting Eren.
Those are the two things.
Keeping him alive, keeping her alive.
We
and it'd be
that,
way
right
easier
away.
to protect Eren while you're planting some crops than it would be fighting Titans, right?
True.
So she's
There's
on with her goal
things.
while Eren's trying to have these issues with his goal. And I don't know if that resonates with you guys, but for me at least, the way Eren thinks is the way I think.
Yeah.
I'm die for this is who I am. Everything is about this. Go hard, right? If I can't even do this, am I even worth anything else? And that's something I think is
a high stakes game, man.
yeah. But it's also, you're driven when you're like that. And to come up against this ODM gear where he can't even do the most basic thing asked of him, it really makes him question his whole purpose, his whole ideology of who he is and why he's here after he's made these deep, comments about these dropouts and these losers who are going to go plant fields. He's like, I'm going to have to go plant fields, right? So he's humbled. And just before the scene, we see him, everyone's interested in what the Titans look like.
I was gonna say, I want to get into that scene. Okay, so there's a lot that kind of happens here. So we meet a bunch of characters, right? And they've done their kind of first day of all getting yelled at. They come into the barracks for mealtime, looks like dinner or whatever.
Yeah. And
as they're sitting around, that's where somebody brings up, I think it's Connie, brings up to Eren. He's like, "Hey, weren't you? Haven't you seen them? Weren't you in Shigashina?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah," or whatever. Tell us about them. And
they're all captivated because not everybody saw the Titans. They just all fled together.
Yeah, and they're like, "Tell us about." There's these rumors have gone around about the colossal Titan. How big was he? And he's like, "Well, I saw his head go over the wall," and and they're like, "Oh, I heard he stepped over the wall," and there's just this
I heard that in my village too, and and then he just kind of nonchalantly says, "Oh, he's not that big."
Yeah, he's kind of talking cool. He's in the middle of eating. Everyone's gathered around, right? And in the middle of eating, he has a flashback of that crazy, creepy clown Titan
eating his mom.
And
he drops his spoon.
he almost like pukes in the thought of like human flesh.
And then I think it is kind of again. He's like, oh wait, we don't have to relive this. Like it's okay. And whatever. And he's like, no. He like comes back too and is like,
kind of like
takes a bite of his bread and is like, no, I'm not afraid. Like they're really nothing. He kind of like
cool hand Luke. Listen, this is no big deal. Who cares about some dumb Titans, right? And this stirs up the ire of a friend,
Jean.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it's spelled
It's
Jean. They
Jean.
call him Jean. It's like Jean-Luc Picard, I guess.
Yeah, it's,
but
again, it's
Jean.
the
It's
Japanese.
Japanese, French.
European.
It's their play,
French
making a European name for it. If it fits.
So Jean's like, oh, you're gonna be over there acting tough, acting like you're not, scared out of your friggin', mind like the rest of us. And Eren's like, I ain't having none of that, bro.
I'm not afraid of anything.
Yeah, which obviously that's
I have
foolish.
no soul.
So they almost come to blows over the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's weird. I still am not sure why it ends the way it does, because that bell rings, and it's like they're about to get into it.
Yeah.
And then Jean is like, you know what? Maybe it's out of turn. I shouldn't have pushed you so hard or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Eren's like, I was at
I'm
fault too.
sorry, too. And then
What I
they
can't
just,
interpret, legit,
Is the slapping the hand?
is he slapping his hand
yeah,
away?
They like go to shake hands, and he's like,
Yeah.
He slaps
Well,
it
I don't
away.
know.
Is that a high five?
In
Like-
American culture, that would be really disrespectful, and Jean would have been slighted, and he would have been like, "You freaking punk!" But he acts
When I
like he's
first saw
fine with it. So
That's
I
what I
don't
thought
know
was
if-
going to happen. I thought they were going to get into a fight
Yeah.
after that.
I don't know if written into the show they're saying, "Hey, this is how people resolve things." Like they give a hand slap, ceremonious hand slap, or if in Japanese culture, like that's totally chill. But in American, like if I reached out my hand and homeboy slaps it away,
he's rejecting your handshake of friendship, which
Yeah,
is
you're-
not.
yeah.
That's deeply
that's
insulting.
when you kick him in the back of the head. You're like, walk away from me, son. Yeah.
And then he cuts you. Like,
Yeah, but so Aaron's kind of all bossed up. He's like, I'm not afraid of anything.
Mhm.
John's like, no, don't be an idiot. You are afraid, just like the rest of us. They're kind of
they, like,
prideful and
hurl
arrogant.
insults back and forth a little bit.
They go out, and then Eren comes back after the failure at the ODM gear. He's so distraught, not being able to do this simple thing. Everyone else is able to do it, falling behind his classmates. It's a horrible feeling. I felt that feeling a lot in my days. And he comes back, and they're like, oh, Eren's not too hot after failing that ODM gear training. He's all talk, wasn't he? He's
Right.
going to kill all the Titans, but he can't even do this stupid basic thing.
Again, very typical for young dudes or
Yeah.
whatever it be.
Which are all the
Throwing
voices
shade like
already
that.
in your head,
Mhm.
Yeah.
of what you feel like people are saying. And so then Eren's so humbled, he goes to Jean. He
Well,
goes to Connie.
Who does he go to? He goes to a couple other people first to get advice, and they're like,
Yeah.
Isn't he
yeah, I
talking
think
to
it's he goes to
Armin and
it's like
Mikasa?
Armin and like Connie's there.
Yeah, he goes to John. He's like, hey, like, please, I'll do anything for my dream. I'll even be humbled. I'll even, take advice from somebody who freaking disrespected me. I'll do anything to stay on this path. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that's actually some character growth immediately.
Right away, where he's not so concerned with his ego as much
Mhm.
as he is with the actual with the goal. Yeah.
because achieve the goal at any cost, right?
Yeah. And
Grow
then-
your character.
That's how he ends up. So he's talking to them, and then it just cuts right away to where he meets.
Because they didn't give him the answer he wanted.
Yeah, he meets Bertholdt and Reiner. He says, "I heard you guys are really good at this. Like you must show me. Like you must train me."
Does he have the bandage on his head at this point?
Oh, okay,
Because
right,
don't
right.
Mikasa
Sorry, yeah, we kind of missed
and
that. Yeah,
Armin go
Mikasa
out
and Armin
with
go
him.
out alone
They're
with him.
practicing
First.
after.
They spend
yeah.
some time. I'm trying to remember what Armin says there. I keep
And
wanting
they're
to like
outside,
loose
and then-
stance and do
and
then-
this, and he goes to try
distribute
it,
your weight, and
completely
and then
fails.
he just
Yeah, bashes his head.
and, like he's gonzo, and they take him to the infirmary.
Well,
And-
anytime that I'm having a hard time with something, the thing I feel that helps the most is some instant brain damage. Like a good concussion will always
Nothing.
help you do a little better the
So
next
then
time
that's
around.
when he's got the bandage, and he's sitting in there, and then he's talking to everybody.
He goes to
and he's
Bertholdt
like,
and Reiner,
"Please help me."
Because he's humbled, yeah.
Yeah, and then he goes to Bertholdt.
So they have this incredibly interesting conversation here, which again, take note.
It's just
like
deep.
there's not
This
a
is,
wasted
like, in
word
the
here.
bunkhouse
Take note of
later.
what's going on. But they are getting to know each other, and and Bertholdt and Reiner say, "Hey, where are you guys from?" He goes, "I'm from Shiganshina." They're like, "Oh, you're not like."
They say that we're not like the rest of everybody else.
They exchange where they're from, right? The Bertholdt and Reiner say we're from the small town outside near Wall Maria,
Mhm.
and
In the
they
mountains.
exchange stories, and they say, "Hey, basically we've seen the Titans too."
Yeah, they're the only 4 out of the, possibly Mikasa 5, out of the whole cadets who
That
have
they know of,
seen
yeah.
the Titans and the murderous rage they
Yeah.
went on to kill everybody, eat everybody.
And they say, like, yeah, well, we're not like everybody else because we've seen something that they haven't. And they've kind of played on that's actually the second time in the episode. Because remember, again, when the higher ups are kind of observing all the recruits or something like that, and they say, well, why this drill sergeant, why is he passing over and not kind of giving a hard time to some of them? He's like, you can see it in their eyes. They've
some of them have actually seen
some
the
of them
Titans.
have seen the Titans or whatever. Like, there's no need to like scare them. Like they know what they're going into.
Know what's up.
And so then Bertholdt and Reiner are basically like, I mean, I guess we're friends now. They kind of have something in common.
Them like a backstory a little bit. Like,
they kind of bond, yeah.
They do. They bond over the fact they've all like seen Titans or whatever.
We had no warning, and then there were Titans.
Well, then also Bertholdt and Reiner, they kind of ask him like, why did you guys want to join up?
Yeah, if you've already seen this.
And Armin, Eren, like, you'd think he'd be the first one to be like, I'm gonna kill all the Titans. What I do, I'm Eren. I'm so hardcore. But he's kind of questioning himself at this time, right? He's failed. He doesn't even really know who he is. Armin speaks up. Armin says, "Look, I didn't necessarily see the same thing that Eren saw. I didn't see my mom get eaten in front of my face." But when I heard that the government was sending out all these people to go kind of die in my place, like his grandfather being one of them, he says, I couldn't just sit idly by. I have to go fight, right? I have to go fight. And that is, honestly, like, that's a good motivation too. Like, Armin's right there.
That's a big part of who Armin is.
That's a big part of his
character.
character.
Just let people die for him.
You can't sleep on Armin.
He wants to stand on his own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And like, what was it called? Mop head?
Yeah, they call him Mop Head.
That's what the drill sergeant calls him right off the bat. He's like,
coconut head, yeah.
This to me is, again, such good like storytelling and such good writing, because you see, okay, Eren's not actually the hero. Eren could not get it done. And I'm just not spoiling anything here, but like, you go through this whole show and you realize like Eren legitimately could not get this done without Mikasa, without Armin, without really a lot of the supporting cast, but those two in particular. Right. And like this is something I love, is the interplay between their 3 personalities, the 3 motivations, the 3 like ways of thinking, and so on and so forth. Because Eren really is brash. He is kind of like
he's super emotional.
Yeah, he's super emotional, emotionally driven. And Mikasa has this kind of like dedication to him. She's a little more level-headed. And then you have Armin, who's this like clearly, even at this point, we already can see him as somebody who's diplomatic, somebody who's very thoughtful, and like kind of just like smart and so on and so forth. And he's also like, he's this little runt. They call him like, what is a little, runt like you doing here? And he's like, he's not afraid. You know what I'm saying? Like, he has like a certain courage to him, which is like,
he does. It's a quiet courage, and it's something that really like, it doesn't come naturally. He has to drum it up. But you can already see the character growth in Armin in 3 episodes, where at first he was too scared to do anything. And now he's realized that's a vice. I want to do something. Right. I'm not just going to let people die in my stead.
He doesn't want to let that define who he is. He's going to push past it.
So then Bertholdt and Reiner, they kind of go off at night, which they don't really even show exactly where they go to.
And they go to this like place where you can see beautiful.
I'm kind of assuming they're going to somewhere.
They're going to the training area
they were
beforehand.
They're kind of like breaking into it or something like that at night, and
just to get some more practice sessions.
Bertholdt and Reiner, I think it's Reiner who says, it's a blonde character. He says like,
"We're gonna make you an expert."
I can because Eren's kind of explaining. So Armin explains why he joined, but Eren hadn't explained yet, and then Eren goes to explain. That's what he says.
First, they talk about Bertholdt's reason.
Because he saw one.
Because we know there's 3 different areas where you can be, you can join in after your past basic training. You can go to the Scouts, which is,
Sky Regiment.
Oh yeah,
is the people. So on the first episode, the guys who were coming in all bloody and beat up, whatever,
they go beyond the walls.
They're exploring outside the walls or whatever. They're actually seeing Titans. That's Scout Regiment.
Then there's the garrison who defend the walls. They stay in the walls.
So that'd be like Hanes and the guard that saved Mikasa and Eren, and then.
Yeah. And then there's the military police, the interior, right?
Police,
So they guard the king. They're kind of protective of the inside, right? And that's the most cushy job you could get, right?
Right.
So everyone is saying, what do you want to do? And they're saying, I want to join the military police, right? First, Jean says it because he's like, I want to join the military police. I want to be comfy and cozy in the interior, and I want to have a swag job where I never have to deal with anything.
He's like not ashamed of it at all.
Yeah, he's not.
Kind of like this is what I want.
Yeah, this is like being a cop in a small town. It's like, okay, you're going to rescue some cats out of a tree.
I want to go eat my donut.
Yeah, like it's not real work. Whereas Eren's like, I want to do the hardest thing, and he steps up and he kind of says that, right? So Bertholdt says, I want to join the military police because, I don't really have as much aptitude for everybody else. And Armin's like, hey, it's okay. Everyone's worried about their own lives. I get why you'd want to go to the interior, protect yourself.
Showing his diplomatic ways.
And they're like, hey, Eren, like,
yeah, why did you join?
Why did you join?
Doesn't Reiner say something?
Well,
Reiner has his own motivation, but I think does he?
Says I want to take back what they took. From me.
That's right. Yeah, Eren says I want.
Eren.
Reiner says that he wants to take back his home.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to go back home, no matter what. Right. And he has a similar like look in his eye when Eren's like, I'm gonna kill them all.
Reiner
motivated.
seemed determined. Like, I want to take back what was taken from me.
Yeah.
I want my home back.
Yeah. Strong. I like it.
Laser focus.
Yeah. And they kind of, I think that's when Eren speaks up and is like, says his line.
I'm going to kill them all. I'm going to kill every single Titan.
Like,
and Reiner respects that. And
they all have a look in their eye like, this guy could be crazy.
He's cray-cray. Yeah. But I respect him.
Yeah. Okay. I like it, right? He's got indomitable will. And he's like, that's why I have to be able to get this training done. So they go and they do this midnight secret training, try to get him better. And Reiner returns and he says, after Eren's explained, I'll do anything. Reiner turns and he says, I can see you have what it takes. And this is like the first strong male affirmation that Eren's probably had. Ever, maybe?
Well, I mean, at least since his dad.
At least.
We don't see much of his like home life before that. But he's young. Because here's the thing is, even at this point, it's been years. They say that. It has been years since
this is at least in the show. The first strong male, affirmation he's gotten, right, which is pivotal in children. Yeah. And Eren so far has been told, you're going to get in everybody's way. Don't join the Scouts by his mom.
Yep. You're weak.
You're weak by Hannes after his mom is killed, right?
You may not be cut out to be a soldier.
You may not be cut out. Yeah. And then...
Give up on your dream.
Give up on your dream, yeah. And then he's finally told by somebody, I think you have what it takes. I think you have what it takes.
So they go... the next morning and it's like do or die time.
Yep.
And he gets in the harness and is like doing the typical anime thing where he's having like internal dialogue. And he's like, no, I know I can do this.
I will overcome this. Yeah. This is the only way.
Make this happen.
And Sadie's is there. Everybody's there. And he's like,
all
right, raise him. And he goes up and he's like, I'm doing it. And he is. He's actually bouncing on this thing.
Yeah. It's a moment of victory.
And he's like, I'm doing it, but no, wait, not yet. And then sure enough, he like flips down or whatever. And he says like, no, I can do it. Like, give me, he says out loud, no, I can do it. And like, give me another chance.
He's begging for another chance. And it's like, when you've tasted, death like that, we taste the defeat.
He's like, lower him.
Yeah.
And then you can like see him losing his mind. Yeah,
so they lower him, and it's like interesting because he goes from no, let me try again. They lower him, and he's like, he actually says like, I'm finished. Like this was it. Like he's literally like he's watching his dream die in front of him. He's like he's thinking, I'm about to be pronounced a farmer. You know what I mean? Like
go pull
the
some
worst
weeds,
possible case scenario. And then Sadie's kind of like looks at him, like sees that determination, and is like, oh, he's like. The soldier standing next to him was like, hey, switch belts with them or whatever.
Isn't it Bertholdt or is it Reiner?
I can't remember standing next to him.
It's one of them.
Just before this, by the way, I just wanted to input this. Just before this, when he goes up for the first time, not to interrupt you too much, I apologize. He says, look, in his mind, his internal dialogue, I may not have the talent that everybody else has.
Oh, that's right.
But nobody has more guts than me.
That's
and
important.
that is Eren. That is the most true thing Eren's ever said. He's come to realization, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the baddest, I'm not the most talented, but guess what? No one will go motivated. As hard as I will go. No one will try to accomplish this more than I will. And that is for sure the trait of somebody who's going to get things done.
Yep. And like I said, like that, it's interesting because again, it's like, well, we just have to wait for the show to unfold here, but that carries like Eren's willpower basically carries. And that's so again true in real life. Like if you think about it, like
entrepreneurs have that.
Exactly. But like Eren has like the thing that we kind of actually all wish we had in ourselves, which is this like endurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's grit. Exactly. In life, generally, like it's not about being the most talented. It's not about being the strongest. This is true in sports. This is true in so many arenas where talent helps. Talent helps a lot. You know, I'm a musician. Like I can think of lots of people I know that were like, especially when I was younger. Tons of talented guitar players and singers and people who just have this natural ability, but that doesn't necessarily match with their like work ethic, with their willpower, with their like desire. That's just like not there. And so I know other people who are significantly more motivated who do have that, who may not be as talented, but they end up as better musicians. They go further in the career or whatever it is because they have this like
the Eagles, right?
Yeah. And so Eren has that like trait here, and so he fails. They lower him. They're like, hey, your belt is malfunctioning. Which again, curious that he can just know that, but apparently he does. And he takes the belt and they hand him the right one, and they raise him up, and he's like, "Oh, like
this is easy,
like no problem, right?" And then this is one of my favorite things. I never forgot this because this was like when I watched this the first time, this was like a pivotal moment. I was like, "Oh dang!" They all respect him right then because I think it's kind of somebody says he was doing it with a busted freaking like the clasp or whatever.
Even
broken,
with
like,
his broken equipment,
even with broken gear,
he was able to
That's
do
how hard
it.
Eren is. That's how crazy he is.
And then everybody's like losing their minds.
Yeah, and they're all
he
pumped
must
about
be
him.
OP.
And then we go into one of the great works of art in the show, which like the show has a lot of like scenery, and as far as like just the visuals go, like I really do enjoy the artwork in this show. Like I'm not always a fan of anime, but they do it really well in the show. They mix the 3D in there, and then they have the
music
scene
comes up.
Yeah, the music comes up, and you have the scene of like Eren and the gang, and they're out like in the woods somewhere, just like freaking busting it out with the ODM gear,
like Spidey swinging from the trees,
and it's like
the epic music plays.
I feel things watching this that I don't feel watching other shows.
Yes.
Like, I feel so excited watching him like fly around in that moment, and I'm like, why would I like? It's
almost like you've had a personal victory.
You just don't
vicariously through Eren.
The writers, the music, the scenery, the artists, they all nailed the feeling of victory, of you thought you couldn't do it, you thought you were beat, and you come back. The underdog comes back
unique.
and he wins.
It's unique, and we need more of that. Like, so help me God, like I wish some Japanese writers would like show up in Hollywood and be like, hey, let's show us you how to like actually make up like a powerful, emotional like story.
Teach us how to write hope into our story.
But
just before that, though, right? The quote too. Keith Sadie's the commander.
I was going to say, we have to get into this. So high emotional moment, and I missed this the first because I've actually seen this episode more than one time. I missed this both times up until now. So Sadie's the drill instructor guy who's just witnessed this says, Grisha, you should be proud. Your son is a soldier.
Today, your son is a soldier.
I think I accidentally spelled this on a previous episode, and I was worried there for a second, but I didn't realize they say it this soon in this show. But Grisha Yeager is Eren's father.
Yeah.
And so he actually says, so apparently Sadie's must know Grisha or something, or at least know that
he knows who his dad
he was, and knows that Eren is his son. So just interesting bit of information there.
But it's also like, man, what a heartwarming moment. Like, your dad, we don't know where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know.
It's been years.
It's possibly, we don't know. We don't know what's going on with Grisha. We left. We saw him riding back on the thing. There's that dream sequence. We have no idea what's going on with Grisha. All we know is he's not around. And Sadie's is speaking into the wind, saying, look, I don't know where you're at. Horrible tragedy. Your wife's dead, but guess what? Take pride. Today, your son's become a soldier.
Yeah.
What a boss
And
moment.
then the next thing right after that is Eren like
flying around again, rejoicing,
making everyone cry and feel things.
Again, every episode's packed. If you're just getting into this show, like stick with it. This is it just keeps getting better, and a lot of the storylines, a lot of things that are getting started now are going to get wrapped up like a whole season from now, and it feels real good when it all comes together.
Yep.
I think this is probably a good place to sort of end our spoiler-free portion of the show. Like I said before, we do a spoiler-free part, and then we're going to spend a few minutes here at the end kind of connecting the dots with other future episodes. So if you're watching for the first time, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching.
Appreciate it.
We're going to have t-shirts and mugs and all. By the time you see this, all that stuff for sale, Teespring. There's going to be links in the show notes and so on. If you have questions, if you want to chat with us, our Facebook page is facebook.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Same thing, youtube.com, Beyond the Basement Podcast. You can find us there. We'll be in the comments and so on. And then if you want to just email us directly with questions, thoughts, concerns. I'm not sure why anyone would be concerned, but it's
or hacks, details, hints.
If you have hacks, if you've seen stuff that we didn't see, please email us beyondthebasementpodcast@gmail.com. You can find all the good stuff there. And thanks again for watching. This is your official warning. Please pause this podcast because I will immediately say a spoiler after I count down from 3. Okay, so 3, 2, 1.
Spoilers
go.
Spoiler alert.
Okay, so can we go in order? Marco,
Marco. Oh god,
so sad.
It's so painful.
It's so sad seeing all your favorite characters alive again.
Young and happy and like,
and they're gonna
his
die.
smiling face.
Oh,
And then freaking Bertholdt and Reiner
Are
like I see
standing
them.
right next to them.
Garbage.
They're right there. I'm like,
Ugh,
you
they're hot garbage.
jerks.
Hate them.
You are
freaking
gonna kill your comrade.
You horrible people. Like you leave this guy to die in front of and you make friends with Eren. Like they may not have seen Eren when they broke through the wall, so they may have that connections.
Right.
They did it.
But here's
You're
what's
the
crazy.
ones.
Here's what's crazy. Okay, so just think about the psychology here. All right, we were using this analogy. Say you've been trained all your life by Germans to hate Jews, but you are one.
Mhm.
Then you go to Israel or something like that. You find all these Jews you're supposed to kill,
You've
and
been
you
told
realize
that they're one way,
wait a second,
and then you
they're
realize
just like
they're
me,
just like you.
and so you've got to realize. Bertholdt and Reiner have to be experiencing a serious existential crisis. Like, who am I? Whose side should I be on?
Mm-hmm.
What's the truth? And all Reiner can think of is, I'm going to take back the land they took from me, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that. And so in this moment, we don't know exactly what they're thinking, but we have an idea that they're like, holy crap, these two kids are the only ones who have seen the Titans. So Bertholdt tests Eren and Armin. He says, you guys saw Titans. Were they terrifying?
He wants to know what
He wants to know.
Yeah, he wants to get in their heads.
And then he says,
so
why
would
would
he's a
you?
Titan shifter?
Yeah, and well,
Because they may have the information. I don't think this is
Are
the
they
answer.
still looking for the
coordinate. I don't know if they even know at this
Isn't
point.
that part of their mission?
They
Yeah.
must
Find the
know.
coordinates?
They must
Yeah,
know. We have somebody off camera here who's
that is their mission.
They
So-
know they have to find the coordinate. Here's the thing: is they are asking leading questions, everything stuff. They have been inside the walls since they broke in.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
information they have, because remember,
Yep.
the first time they get any outside information is when the Beast Titan shows up and like kind of rebuffs them or whatever. Like that's the first time they've had anybody from outside of it's Paradise or whatever that comes in.
Yeah.
And so they do have all this information. And he's asking leading questions. He's trying to find, are you a Titan shifter? Are you coordinator? Like,
But he also says, why would you want to join the soldiers? Like, shouldn't we be inspiring fear amongst your ranks? Wouldn't you be running for your life? And they're getting their first insight on humanity.
Why do you want to fight
They're getting
back?
their first insight on what, a Marleyan truly is up front that they've been told to hate, that they've been ashamed of themselves.
but they're actually brothers,
and
basically.
they actually find out this, because remember later on they say that that Reiner gets really conflicted as to whose side he on, what way he should be doing.
It's like losing
This
his
is the
mind.
seed that plants. It's wait a second.
It's camaraderie.
It's
with Eren.
Armin says, I don't want to just stand around and let someone die for me.
Yeah.
It's Eren saying, I got to fight for my family. I got to do something, right? And they're like,
I'm
wait
gonna
a second.
kill them all.
These guys are just like us. They're just like us, and this is where the seed starts.
But
So
it's
that's the
still
psychology.
it's still this incredible, again, what an incredible storyline to write, to be like, okay, they break through, then they join the scouts,
Mhm.
and then Annie's there, and you're like, okay,
Filthy
what the frick?
frickin',
with her
yeah.
weird blue eyes.
What was the other thing I was gonna bring up here? Oh yeah, Historia and Ymir
We
both show
see
up
them,
here.
and you see their weird relationship
Yeah,
right
their
off
relationship.
the bat.
You
and
can,
how
you're like, what the heck?
Ymir's like above everything, and I hate everything. And
But she does
whatever.
something nice
But
anyway.
then she picks her up and carries Sasha anyway.
Yeah, and you got to wonder at this point,
But
is she
she's like,
already?
It's only about me, though. It's just so
For the
she'll owe me
favor.
later.
Yeah, but is she already suspecting, Krista as being Historia at this point? Because remember, that was what she was looking for. Is she was looking for someone like her.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, that's right. They don't necessarily know that they are each other at this
Yeah.
point. Okay. So let's see here. I'm trying to think of the other.
We got to know that Keith Sadie's is the one who sabotages.
Yeah, he's the one.
Eren's gear.
Because we find that out later. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Probably as a favor to Grisha. He
Yeah.
wants to.
Yeah.
Seriously, I've been thinking about this the whole time, because when I found that out, later watching the episodes, I was like, wait, that means go back in time. He's such good friends with Grisha, which we do. He's the one who finds him coming
He's
from
the
outside the
one.
wall.
Yeah, he's like,
And he's such good friends with them, and he realizes this is his son. He's seen his son before. When he came back, he's seen Eren before as a little kid.
Yeah.
When he came back into Shiganshina with all those dead soldiers, and Eren's standing right there, and he has to apologize to that lady who lost her son Moses, and he's kind of you got this deep thing going on, and friggin' he goes, I'm gonna save this kid.
Yeah. He does what any good friend would do.
Because I was saying this before, I was like, imagine if you're a drill instructor and one of your best friend's kids shows up and is like, I want to go to the front lines. I'm going to put me in the most dangerous spot. And who knows? Grisha may have been like, hey, can you? I don't know. I guess it's
You're like,
the
what's
time
that
there
kid?
doesn't really
Latrine
work.
duty? Yeah, I'll put you on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
what's
can
that?
go peel potatoes.
But he's literally trying to make
forever.
him wash out, and because he's committed to Grisha, and he sees him so determined that he goes, It changes his
It's
mind.
only
It changes his
after
mind.
he
I'm going to let him
sees.
succeed.
And it's the same thing as the previous episode, right? First, Grisha, Eren's mom is like, "No, Grisha, tell him he can't join the scouts. Tell him whatever." And he's like, "Why do you want to join the scouts?" And he's like, "I want to see outside the walls." And Zad's like, "Dang, good argument, son. Okay, I'll show you." Right?
Yeah.
Eren's will changes his perspective, right? And it's the same thing with Keith. He's like, "No, I'm gonna hold this kid back. This kid's not going to the front lines." And Eren's like, "I'll do anything to be a soldier. No one has more guts than me." And only after seeing that, Keith says, "I think there's something wrong with your gear there, friend.
Mm-hmm.
You pass."
Yeah,
You know,
you pass.
today
And again,
your
like,
son's
how would
become
he
a
know
soldier.
that unless
Yeah.
he's the one who did it?
Take pride, he says.
So you noticed something about Eren, his head wound.
Yeah, so
Which I missed.
when Mikasa and Armin take him outside and they try to help him and he smacks his head, and gets knocked out, then they're back in the barracks and his head is steaming.
Yeah, completely missed that.
So he has the bandage.
And
they show him like a bloody
actual,
head.
it's not just like, in anime when they're doing the weird like,
That's-
"He's angry,
that's what I thought it
No,
was.
it was actual steam coming off of his head.
He's Titan healing.
And then the next day his, head wrapping is gone and he just has a little Band-Aid. And that's all he
Yeah.
has.
a
Titan
cute
healing.
observation.
Like,
I totally missed that one.
Holy crap,
Yeah.
people.
Here's the other thing. We see, we've grown up around Mikasa because of Eren, right?
Yeah.
This is the first time Mikasa's kind of like around people her age.
Yeah.
Jean sees Mikasa and it's
She
like,
walks by and her hair like sparkles.
When they do the dark
The
eyes
like
thing.
slow-mo.
yeah. And John is exactly
And
like
there's,
all
like,
of us in our
flower petals
teens
for
when we
some
see a
reason.
girl and he's like,
And then
you
he
have,
turns red right
Yeah.
across
you
here.
have pretty black hair, right? And this is
Never
actually a
seen
spoiler
anyone
because
like
But yeah, he
you.
says, "I've never seen someone like you
Yeah.
before. You have
Yeah.
you have unusual like
Your
black
hair is
hair,
very
which is true.
beautiful.
She's the only character with that."
the Asians and the Ackermans are almost extinct in
Right.
this form of reality.
Right.
And the only other one we're going to see is Levi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, I'm so impressed, dude. They're putting this stuff, like, this wasn't like, they didn't come up with the stuff after the fact. Like, he wrote the whole thing and said, no, there's these people called like the Ackermans, this whole like clan or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're unusually strong and they can't be controlled. Their memories can't be erased by like the founding Titan
Right.
power. And like, there's like so intricate, and they're
Yes.
planting the seeds like immediately. I'm so glad we're rewatching this.
But also, I just think there's another little comic moment where, he's like, your hair is very beautiful. And then a few seconds later, Eren's like, you should cut that off. It's going to get caught in your gear.
Oh, yeah.
Because he
And so
just
she's
sees her
like,
as a
how
sister.
short should I go?
Yeah.
And then John is like, wipes his trust on
Yeah. I wipe away my faith in
Connie's
humanity
neck.
because
but the actual translation is supposed to
Tell
be
us the
my
line so we
faith
can say it
in
in the mic really
humanity.
quick.
He's like, why are you? What did you wipe on me?
Yeah,
My faith
he's
in
a- yeah.
humanity.
because this hot girl's hanging out with this freaking doofus.
And he's
And
like-
because he's like,
Eren.
cut her hair, and he like loves her hair, and he's like,
And she's like, oh,
Everyone's
okay, how short
worthless.
should I do it? And
Yeah.
he's just like, you're a piece of garbage, Eren.
And
I
this
hate
is
you.
actually something that I'm gonna start doing at work. And whenever a dumb idea, I'm just gonna wipe my hand and move, and I'm just like, look,
you're a lion dog face pony soldier.
This is my,
my faith in humanity is gone.
I'm
and
wiping
wiping
my
on
faith
somebody.
in humanity off on you because
Okay.
I have lost all desire to carry it.
Any other quick spoiler parts that we want to include? I feel like that was it. That's everything I've written down.
That's pretty much the gist of it. You know,
Okay.
this episode is just about building the characters.
Yep.
It's about knowing that Eren is going to try to reach his goal no matter what, even if all the odds are stacked against him.
Yep.
We see the relationship between him and Reiner and Bertholdt.
Yep.
You know, you kind of have this friendship brewing, which is going to turn out to be this great rivalry.
The Titan Trinity of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin interplay is developing more. Yep,
Yep.
It's all there.
The interesting part too is when Reiner and Bertholdt says, you know, we're not like the other ones,
Yeah.
right?
That's
What a
definitely
true
huge,
statement.
We are
yeah.
not like them. And then when I hear, and here's
We're
the thing
not
is,
like the rest of
Reiner
them.
actually twice in that conversation like touches him. Is like, oh,
Don't go
hey,
too
yeah,
far,
like
don't go
don't
too far,
reveal too
yeah.
much here. Like, they might
But think
figure
about
stuff
it.
out.
Those four amongst everybody else become Titan shifters.
Yep,
Yeah,
just
that's
those four.
true.
it is true.
All
We're not
four of
like
them.
all
They're
the
not
four
like
shifters.
everybody
They
else.
literally aren't like anyone else.
Yep. So pretty cool.
Except Annie.
Yeah, I suppose. What a
Well,
But
friggin'
she's a
dirtbag.
woman, so still
Yeah,
it's
and we
still it still
don't
holds
know.
true.
They
She's
still, it's funny because like like in season 1, she's
crystallized.
crystallized,
turns
and we
into a rock.
legit
Hello.
don't
Crickets
know.
in season
Rock.
2.
See,
Yeah.
and season 3,
And season
we don't
3,
know.
yeah.
We still don't actually know. So,
So
if you
jacked
read
up.
the manga, please don't spoil that for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that'll do it
Yeah.
for episode 3 of Beyond the Basement. Thanks again for
Indubitably.
watching. Again, if you're hanging around, we're gonna have t-shirts and mugs and all the Patreon, all that stuff set up. We have links in the show notes. But more importantly, like I said, shoot us an email. Beyond the Basement Podcast at gmail.com, or find us on Facebook.com/Beyond the Basement Podcast, YouTube, so on and so forth. That's where we are hanging out. In regards to the show, pumping out AOT memes. That's like my goal. I've always wanted to be a guy who puts out sick memes of some kind. So send us yours. We'll create some of our own. And thanks for watching. We will see you in the next episode.
God bless.
God bless. Thanks again for watching and listening. If you're enjoying the show, you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. If you're really loving it and you want some extra cool content, you can join our Patreon page over at patreon.com/beyondthebasementpodcast. Check the show notes or our social media pages for links to some really rad Attack on Titan merch. All right, guys. See you next time.